What's going on, guys? This is Bento with another Steam controller playtest. Gonna be doing it on Xcom Enemy Unknown, and I guess technically Xcom Enemy Within. Although unfortunately I don't really get to much of the expansion because I literally just started new game. Primarily I just wanted to show you guys obviously just the controls, so unfortunately you're not going to see much content in terms of XCOM, but I'm sure if the game's been out for 4 years now, I think, or 3, so I'm sure you guys have pretty much seen whatever you need to see for XCOM. But since this is one of the top-down games I wanted to test the Steam controller on, I figured why not. So currently for my configuration, I have the entire keyboard and mouse set up on the controller. The right trigger is my left click, the left trigger is my right click. The left D-pad, trackpad from now on. Left trackpad is just camera functionality, so up actually raises the level. If any of you are familiar with XCOM, you kind of need to raise levels so that you can get better view and to know where they can appropriately move. That's up and down to go back and forth. Left and right is to rotate the camera, but I also have it with the back pedals, or the left. It's actually called left grip. I'm an idiot. I should have been calling it that from now on. The left and right grip pretty much lets you. I have it to just move, rotating the camera left or right. And it's also helpful because when you're choosing targets in XCOM, that also means you can just click it and you can select the enemy targets, which I'll probably show you in a bit. The face buttons I use just for quick access of certain actions as well as to interact with the game. So A is pretty much my confirm, B is actually escape, so if I want to exit the menu. X is actually to switch weapons, and Y is to quick reload just in case. The left thumbstick pretty much just moves the camera around, and the right trackpad is actually the cursor, so if I need to select or do whatever I need to. I also have motion on, but I don't really use it as much, but only if I just need to be accurate. Luckily, since this game doesn't really need you to be twitch, you can freely move however you need to. And as for the left and right bumpers, I have them to switch between soldiers. The center button, which is normally the select, is actually to end the game turn. And for my start button, which is on the right, I actually don't have it set on anything right now because I completely forgot to. So one thing that's really noticeable about this controller setup is that I have the right trackpad on a specific mode shift setting so that I can access the abilities of each of the soldiers. So with XCOM, at least on keyboard, I forget how it works. I'm not too sure if it works similarly on console, but since there aren't any numbers specifically for console, selecting abilities for keyboard was always been through 1 through 9. So since there is no keyboard functionality and I only have so many buttons, what I do is I double click on the right trackpad in a certain location and it lets me access up to 9 different abilities from each of the soldiers. And the way this works is with the shift mode, essentially when you tap the right trackpad, it gives you access to the numerical options. So here I went into configure controller just to show you guys what I mean. So with this setting, what happens is if I were to click it, it actually gives you access to this numpad right now. And from there you can select whatever you need to. Unfortunately, what happens and I think it's about to, right here, what happens is that normally you'd have it on another trigger, like a pedal or like a grip to access it. So that way you click on the trackpad to hit the buttons. But since I'm using the trackpad to access that mode, what you actually have to do is double click instead. So in that case, it's not that big of a deal for me, but just for the purpose of making the game more, I guess, not to have so much visual noise, I decided to remove the opacity on the menu in one of my settings, so that pretty much what I did was I memorized where the numerical pads were on the trackpad, and so that way I don't have to be visually impaired. Well, it's not really visually impairing, but I don't have to see the numpad all the time like blinking. And it's worked really well. It's actually really easy to pick up in my opinion, but obviously again with the controller you can customize it however you want. In fact, one thing I tried was to actually put the shift mode on the right trigger on a soft pull action, so when I hold the soft pull action down and I move with the trackpad, it gives me the numerical pad, and therefore I can just click with the trackpad and select whatever I need to. The only reason I changed it a bit was just because sometimes I ended up just pulling the trigger all the way because I'm not used to it yet, and so I'd end up clicking something else. But that's just me. But again, customize it however you need to. Like this is the best. This is the really great part about this controller, is just you have a lot of options to work with. You can also set that menu to also be on the left trackpad as well. I believe from the settings, what I remember it being called is the touch menu. And as soon as somebody told me about this, and a big thanks to them, I immediately thought about trying a whole bunch of other different games too. Like Xcom is pretty basic in terms of selecting all these abilities. What I really want to try next is maybe Half-Life 2. What other games were there? Essentially just single player, maybe most likely FPS games where there's a lot of weapons to choose from, and therefore I can have quick access to them just using the touch menu. So for a game like Xcom that is turn-based and top-down, the Steam controller works however you need to, and I think it works pretty well. I honestly think it doesn't fare that differently from a normal control scheme how it is on console. I can't say for sure because I never actually touched it, but there are some advantages like the touch menu, which I think really offer a lot more convenience in comparison to a regular controller. That's all for me, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.